performance for everyone here in this room right now. We actually are going to do a mic check right now because we tried to do one earlier and we didn't have Shockwave and Anissa, who were performing in Las Vegas this morning. So before we get into it, I can see all the phones out. And I want to just say that part of what we do is meant to be a communion between the people in this room and us. So if you wouldn't mind, let's take a moment to take our last pictures. So everyone here, come on, we're going to do like the triumphant pose of holy shit, they just did the best show we ever saw. And you're all going to take that picture right now. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Look at those for me! Great, and now put those phones away. Yes. Yeah, put them all the way away. Even maybe turn them off if you want to. Put them under your butt. You don't need it anymore. You just need to look at your neighbor next to you and say, I got your back, because we haven't got a chance to do that to each other. So go ahead and take a moment.
It's Orson Welles' quote that was, if you want to tell a story with a happy ending, it depends on where you end the story.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take you back to the beginning. First, there was the beats.
This is an improv show. It's a group of friends saying, I can't wait to hear what you're gonna say next. We had no idea what we were getting into.
We started making stuff in a small room that was painted black where nobody was paying attention to us.
It was like such a disaster in the early days.
We were having tennis balls thrown at us. You just keep rapping and you throw the tennis ball back.
A lot of the people in Freestyle of Supreme are shaping what the American theater looks like now.
This was before Hamilton. Heights doesn't happen if it isn't for this.
The MC is going to use your words over a beat. Give us a word. Mascara, instant noodle, nail clippers,
camouflage.
I'm sorry, was your name Rambo? Were you in the army? Why the you wearing camo? I can't believe you wear it as a choice. I wear it on my underwear. Now listen to my voice. No! Oh my God!
Whatever Freestyle Love Supreme was doing at that time fit me like a well-worn hoodie. It's truly about like embracing and celebrating the human experience.
It's finding the joy in the things we know how to do and turning them into a show.
And here we are, 15 years later.
We're all together doing this thing again. Because this is like kind of like the nucleus of all of that creative energy.
You're seeing us on the other side of a lot of ups and downs. The only thing that's changed is we just have that much more life to draw from.
If more people had this kind of experience, truly the world would be a happier place.
Ladies and gentlemen, the word is
Vibrator. That vibe would be higher than anything. It would be hotter than the equator if that vibrator really existed. That vibe would be to the top. It got my whole mind twisted so we can stay. I love you every single day. The band is back together and we're here and we can play. We are Freestyle.
What's up?
So congrats on the film that's based on the show.
Thank you.
On the group.
That is also true. Thank you.
So can you talk more about the origin of Freestyle Supreme, the group, the fact that they're inspired by hip hop, and you directed Hamilton as well with Lin Manuel writing that. So hip hop has a really big influence on a lot of the projects that Lin has done. So can you talk more about the origin of the group?
Sure. I mean, hip hop felt like a language that we shared. You know, I was born in 1977, so I'm about the age of hip hop. You know, we sort of grew up together. Me in the Northern Virginia area, Lin in New York, but listening to a lot of the same things. And Anthony Viniciali, who started Freestyle Supreme with me and Lin, was someone who also was doing the same thing. He just was living in Philadelphia. So he was listening to The Roots if we were listening to, you know, Tribe. And then he realized that the language that we thought was just for us, he realized has been broadcast and is understood by so many more people. And that was one of the beauties of finding each other, that we could take the music we loved and use it to tell stories about things we cared about.
So what is the audience going to learn about this group that they didn't know before after they see the film?
Well, I think what you start to understand is that the seeds of who we became were there. They hadn't been watered and they hadn't grown yet. But the things we cared about, the things we were trying to express, which is how to make a group of people that have never met in an audience coalesce and cohere and have a moment that is just for them, that's what improv does, because it will never happen again. So it's the power of really being moment to moment. and then you and I see the same show. We think, oh, that was the one where they did the thing with the tiger, and no one else will ever see that. So there's a kind of ownership that can happen for an audience that I think bonds them and galvanizes them.
Now you have a big musical theater background. You directed Hamilton. You also have the FX series, The Fosse Version. Like, what are some of the approaches that you take to that type of, you know, those different types of projects when you have theatrical projects?
Well, I think storytelling is storytelling, and my job is to try to make it fit the box that it's in, and whether it's a proscenium at a theater or a black box theater downtown or a television screen. So what I'm interested in is the creative process, and all of the things that you're mentioning, you know, a Hamilton or a Freestyle Supreme or a Fosse Verdon, are about people that made things. Some people made the country in one instance, other people are making a rap and taking stories from the audience and spinning them back, and other people are making Broadway shows. All of those things are about creation, and I'm really fascinated by creation.
So can you talk more about Freestyle Love Supreme and the origin of the group and your participation in the documentary?
Yeah, sure. I am the person who conceived of Freestyle Love Supreme, and I created it with Tommy Kail and Lin Manuel Miranda, and I've been a part of it since the beginning, and it started in these very, modest roots in basements of places, and we have just bonded as a group because we jump from a very high platform to do freestyle rapping as an improv in front of a live audience. I think is a pretty unique and scary thing, and when you do that with other people where they're willing to sort of make those giant risks, I think you kind of form really strong bonds, and they've lasted now for over 16 years, so it kind of feels true.
Now, Lin Manuel Miranda is a very famous member of the group. Like what can we look forward to seeing? Are there any particular scenes that you're involved in?
Oh yeah, so I mean, this is a documentary all about Freestyle Love Supreme, and Lin's one of the founding members. He is all over this film. There aren't too many moments in this film that Lin isn't a part of. So you kind of get to see his relationship to the group now, and also us as kids. I mean, we have 15 years of footage here on screen, and it's really phenomenal and like humbling all at the same time. Yeah, and there's so many great moments. There's so many things that we don't necessarily say to each other because we're a little bit like a family, and sometimes you don't necessarily talk to your family in the way that you would a sort of a third-party person, and so we're finally like getting to hear what we're saying about each other, and it's just really lovely. I mean, we love each other very much. Like all of us in this group, it's a family, and it feels like home.
Now, hip-hop is a very big influence on Lin's life.
Yeah.
Inspiring Hamilton.
Yeah.
To like so many other things. Like what would you say is like would be some of the biggest hip-hop icons that are on his playlist?
Wow, that's a good question. You'd have to ask him. I mean, he's got a playlist, and he often puts his playlist together on Spotify. I know for Freestyle Love Supreme that we're an improv show first, and then hip hop is a part of it, and freestyling is a part of it, and hip hop is a black art form, and it started up in the Bronx, and those parties that DJ Kool Herc would throw, and that all of these great things started coming out of that moment. Our hope is that we pay honor to that, and that we never lose sight of the giants from where this came from. So for our show, some of those giants include DJ Kool Herc, Bahamadia, these people that started all that kind of like Brand Nubians, De La Soul, Tribe Called Quest, Black Sheep. Like that's some of that early stuff that definitely informs the group, and Lin, I'm pretty sure as well. And then you start getting into like the Jay-Z's, the Eminems, like anything that's out there, Chance the Rapper, Dan the Automator, Tyler the Creator, like all of these people inform and influence us because our show is different every time we do it.
First of all, it's just so exciting to be here. About 15 years ago, I saw an improv show called Freestyle Love Supreme. I was completely inspired and moved and impressed and blown away by the talent on stage. About 3 weeks later, I found myself sleeping on their couch in Scotland while they were performing at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, filming them and just, trying to get a lens on what seemed like, those billboards when they haven't put a billboard up yet and it says, "Watch this space." That's just what I saw over these performers' heads as I was getting to know them. And so filming then and filming for years, through many of them working on In the Heights, and then up until Hamilton, and then in 2018, Tommy Kalil, who's the director of Freestyle, said we're going to do a run downtown in New York, and do you think we should finish our movie? And so I guess we had a movie, and I hope the movie makes sense. I hope it resonates with people, and I hope they enjoy it.
Now, you have very famous members of Freestyle, Love Supreme, Lin Manuel Miranda, who wrote, created,
Yeah.
is the lyricist for Hamilton, is the most famous member. What can the audience expect to learn about the origin story regarding this hip-hop group that decided to come together to, express their love for the art form?
Well, you're going to see them doing it. We imagine how these things go, right? What the progression is of people who go on to become successful, famous, noted, noteworthy, whatever the case may be. These guys were always performing. They were always doing their show. They were always getting up on stage. Improv is based so much on the idea of listening to your fellow performers. And they've been listening to each other and getting up there and doing it and experimenting. And whether there were 50 people or 500 people, they were always working and honing their craft. And so I think there's a lot of lessons for creatives and for anyone who is working hard to try to accomplish something.
And you have a lot of different projects. It's in the Heights,
A lot of cooking. Yeah.
So you're one of the alumni who returned from the stage to the film. So what was that process like for you to be part of?
Oh, well, as far as that film is concerned, John Chu is obviously a fantastic director, and that show kind of treats everyone with the same experience, be it a high school drama club or these amazing actors that are making this huge Hollywood movie. Stepping on set was pretty much like it was stepping into the Richard Rodgers every day for that experience. It's the show. The show brings everybody and kind of elicits the same kind of emotion every time you step into it. So it was fun to play with Lin again in a different medium, and we have fun. I'm excited for it to come out.
I had a chance to visit the set.
Oh, right on.
Love and tears.
Oh, yeah.
Authenticity as well.
Very much so.
In terms of what was all the effort that was going into the set design.
We come into that was a particular special thing. I found I had the same experience walking on the set, and it's nice that it feels like we're coming into an age where our stories are being told, and be it originating from a stage or just the experiences of folks who have lived very full lives, but their stories have never been told. It's a nice age that as a person of color we're coming into. I feel hopeful about the things that are happening.
And what do you hope for the audience to take away from In the Heights at that level of representation?
I think that we're going to see how diverse we are. We're going to see how much the same we are. I didn't grow up in Washington Heights. I grew up in Southern Illinois and spent my time in the country and then in town, and I related very much to that story every day, every moment of it. Yeah.
Now we're here with Freestyle Love Supreme.
Yes.
It's a hip-hop group. Can you tell us more about the origins and your involvement in it and what we can understand about it?
It was the brainchild of Thomas Kalil and Anthony Viziali and Lin Miranda. We were doing readings of In the Heights in the drama bookshop, and then we go in the corner and cipher, and our love of theater, our love of each other, our love of hip hop, which is the greatest American art form. I think that we got to a place where they got to a place where we got to do this in front of people. We want to share how much joy is in this process, and then I got roped into it very early on, and started to experience what that kind of joy and that kind of tightrope walk could be. And here we are, 16 years later, still doing it for the love, still doing it for the discovery and for the love of one another. And this film does a really beautiful job of documenting our journey through that.
Now, with Hamilton, hip hop was a big influence on Hamilton as well. Like what are some of the hip hop artists that influenced you, and also like what was, can you talk more about like your experience in Hamilton?
One that I've done in the past.
Yeah.
Taking hip hop to
Two shows in
mass
San Francisco. So we
global
just did
lines.
two shows in San Francisco for the sketch.
I think every great art form inspires other art. You know, it elicits some kind of a reaction, which is why we're here, today. The artists that really influenced me, Black Star, Common, you know, I mean, as well as like the super popular, you know, Biggie, Tupac, you know, Public Enemy. I went from Michael Jackson to all of the hip hop that I could get my hands on. When it was emerging, I was in a bit of a musical desert because the urban radio wasn't really hitting where I was, and so my friends would go to St. Louis or they go to Memphis, and we would give them tapes to record, you know, like mixtapes. It's a common story between folks who lived in those places. Fast forward, like in all of my writing and all of my, you know, the things that I pursued, like finding Lin and finding a kindred spirit, somebody who musically wanted to allow his writing to influence what he was building for the stage. I think obviously started with, you know, In the Heights and Freestyle Love Supreme, and we see that growth and that pursuit through Hamilton. I think that was just another sort of level of what Lin is trying to do in terms of like broadening the audience and making music that people can relate to, that all people can relate to, you know, because hip hop is arguably the greatest American art form, the last great American art form. We see the same thing in the era of jazz. You know, we saw how it was affecting popular music, and then we see it on the Broadway stage, you know, through the golden age of Broadway as well. And I think that what Lin did was that he merged all of those, tried to merge all of those modern day, you know, commonalities into something like Hamilton to tell an American story, which is, you know, what all these forms are from.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
The $10 founding father without a father got a lot farther by working a lot harder, by being a lot smarter, by being a self-starter.
To your union and the hope that you provide. May you always be satisfied.
This is Hamilton.
Now, In the Heights is being made into a film.
That is true.
Well. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled for the whole group. It's, you know, all of my best pals are making it. I think John Chu's an incredible filmmaker. He's been a friend, and really his heart is so aligned with the spirit of that show. So I can't wait for people to see what he's made.
So did you have any like in-depth conversations?
You know, he showed me the film. You know, he had me come to set and talk to him. But like, that's a guy who knew what he was doing.
You've seen the film already?
I have seen the film already.
Okay,
Yeah.
I've been at the set.
Oh yeah. But John Chu didn't need to learn anything from me. He knew everything. He had Kiara and Lin there, and he was just a really generous and collaborative pal. So I really valued that.
And do you have any other projects coming out?
I'm going to stop moving my feet for a little while and see what happens then. So right now I'm just going to take it easy and enjoy my friends being in a documentary.
And Lin Manuel is the most famous member of the freestyle. Like, he's not here now. But what do you think that he would say, like, in terms of that stuff?
What do you think we'd say about what?
About the reception of the film here at Sundance, because he was here with his dad.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what he would say. So we'll just have to tell him how it went, and he'll have to believe us.
What does sueñito mean?
Sueñito. It means little dream.
That's it? No story?
All right, everybody sit down. It's a story of a block that was disappearing. In un barrio called Washington Heights. The streets were made of music.
I Peter Musnavi, and you probably never heard my name. Reports of my fame are greatly exaggerated. Morning, Musnavi. Pan caliente, café con leche.
On these blocks, you can't walk 2 steps without bumping into someone's big plan.
I'm making moves, I'm making deals, but guess what? What? You still ain't got no skills. I've been saving up all my pennies in my piggy bank for this day.
This is going to be an emotional roller coaster. The odds are against you.
But there's a chance, right? A dream isn't some sparkly diamond. There's no shortcuts. Sometimes it's rough. Yeah, I'm a street light choking on the heat. The world spins around while I'm frozen to my seat. The people that I know.
They're talking about kicking out all the dreamers.
But every day is different, so
it's time to make some noise.
We had to assert our dignity in small ways.
Shh. Just listen.
Little details that tell the world we are not invisible.
Ignore anyone who doubts you. We came to work and to live, and we got a lot in common.